Ferrari has been part of Formula One since its inaugural season in 1950, and it's had some of the sport's most famous drivers on its roster, names like Ascari, Lauda and Schumacher. There have been highs and lows for the prancing horse over the years, but Scuderia Ferrari is the oldest remaining team in Formula One. The year is 1987, the 38th season of F1. Ferrari didn't win a single race the previous year, and now it had to build a car that could not only win, but would comply with the comprehensive rule changes that the '87 season brought. This is the Ferrari F187. It was designed from scratch to comply with the new regs. Its engine was a new, narrower 1.5-litre V6, kicking out 880 brake horsepower. Its predecessor was already considered to be one of the most powerful cars on the grid, and it had 30 fewer horses. The car was the brainchild of designer Gustav Brunner and technical director John Barnard. Barnard had been recruited from McLaren off the back of 6 successful seasons to get Ferrari back on the podium, something it had barely seen in previous years. Barnard started to implement some big changes, one of which was banning wine at lunch on test days, something that did not go down well with the mostly Italian mechanics. Ferrari had been slow to respond to technical revolutions in the past, but that was about to change. Reliability issues did plague the team early in the season, but up-and-coming driver Gerhard Berger drove this car to 3 pole positions and 2 wins that season. The win at the Japanese Grand Prix that year was not only Berger's first, but Ferrari's first in 2 years. The win at the very next race in Australia was Ferrari's first back-to-back win since 1981.
Here he is with the checkered flag. Watch his technique of Gerhard Berger, who, in spite of having a terrible practice with illness, has won for the second time in 2 Grand Prix for Ferrari.
2 in a row win for you, but we thought you were in trouble. What were the sparks that were coming up from the back of the car?
I'm not sure. Maybe I have a problem with the exhaust, because the last 2 laps I had some funny noises from the engine.
This specific car with chassis number 100 was first driven by Alboreto in 1987 during the Grand Prix of Hungary, Austria, Italy and Portugal. Afterwards it was set aside and carried Berger's number and functioned as a reserve car. The car underwent some modifications for the '88 season and was renamed the F187 88C. This would be the last year that regulations would permit turbocharged engines, so the car was nicknamed Ultimo Turbo. Very little was changed on the car, save redesigned front and rear wings and a lowered engine cover due to new fuel tank limitations. It was one of the most powerful cars that year, but its poor fuel consumption compared to its rivals proved a little too much. Ferrari was no match for the Honda-powered McLarens, who won all but one of the Grand Prix that year. The one they missed? Monza. Senna and Prost, the 2 McLaren drivers who had dominated the season, both retired, leaving the path clear for a Ferrari 1-2 for Gerhard Berger and Michele Alboreto. The win came just a month after the passing of Enzo Ferrari, the man who made the company the legend it was then and still is today. Berger came 3rd in the drivers' ranking that year, his highest ever finish, which he achieved again in 1994 after returning to Ferrari. The night before the Italian Grand Prix, Ferrari team boss Marco Piccinini had joked to Berger that if he won the race, he could keep the car. The first thing Berger said when he exited the car at Parc Fermé was, "You can bring this car to Austria." Berger and this car ended a rough streak for Ferrari. That driver and that car are part of Ferrari's massive F1 story, a story that's had its highs and its lows. But it's rarely been dull.